Namaskar, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. I am extremely delighted today to host Miss Akshata Limaye on the show. Akshata has been my senior at GLC, and we used to often catch up in the library. And one of the very hardworking and inspiring seniors. And currently, she is working as an associate program officer at the International Trade Center. Akshata did her master's in international law and economics from the World Trade Institute, University of Bern in Switzerland, and is actively contributing to the Trade for Sustainable Development, that is the T4SD program at the International Trade Center, WTO, United Nations. And it's very inspiring because it's a very different journey. Akshata has worked as an associate at one of the major law firms in Bombay. And after having some work experience, she decided to pursue her master's and is now working at the ITC. So we will unfold our journey today. Very happy to host you, Akshata.
So happy to be here. Thank you, Shivam. And that was a very kind introduction. Yeah, I'm ready for all your questions and let's have a nice chat.
Yes. So I'll start again with the golden question. Why law? What really motivated you to pursue law as a career?
Yeah, this will go a while back. I think when I was in seventh or eighth grade, then I think the decision of pursuing law was a combination of multiple factors. I would say majorly some kind of awareness about my strengths and weaknesses, and also some delusion about legal profession. I'll explain. So, in terms of awareness, I would say that I grew up in the shadow of an older brother who's extremely smart at like maths and physics and was a very academically good student, and I think so was I, but be like constantly having that role model to look up to, I realized that those really weren't my strengths. I wasn't very good at mathematics and physics, so I went through the process of elimination of what am I good at, and let's focus on that. So I had, I think, some aptitude for languages, and I really enjoyed studying social sciences. And at the same time, I was very active in any kind of public speaking. So, be it elocution, debates, theater, I was there. So, my school teachers at the time, and as well as my parents, I have to be grateful because they recognized that and they let me be. They didn't put like a lot of pressure of pursuing like science or like engineering or medicine, which was the trend in my family. My father did study law, but he never practiced it. So I think I come that way from a non-legal background. So I think there was a lot of support in letting me pursue something that I was passionate about. And the 15, 16-year-old me thought that pursuing a career in law is all about advocacy and how hard could it be. And, I'm going to be great at it. That's what I thought. And that's how I got into it. But now that I look back at my journey, I am doing something that I never thought I would. But yeah, that's how I decided to pursue law.
And what a journey it's been. And you ended up at GLC. Could you tell us a little bit about your journey at the Government Law College?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not like a very long time ago, but I think the formative years, I would say, were extremely important in terms of what I have become today. I think the journey at GLC is unique in the way that a lot of people know that there's a different structure and format to studying in GLC. I think the first two, yeah, and you would agree, right? So the first 2 years, I found it extremely hard to sort of fit into it because prior to joining GLC, I was used to having some form of discipline and structure in terms of attending classes, and I was that student who would sit on the second row and like make notes. And when it came as a shock to me that that wasn't really what my GLC journey was going to be, And I was also staying with my parents at the time, so I was a local student. So I think I found it difficult to sort of get into like the to relate to a lot of my classmates who had moved from different cities to Bombay. So I think for those reasons I found it quite difficult, because prior to that I had never felt like alienated. um, but what happened was, towards the end of the second year, I met some of my classmates who felt like me. And then I found my first peer group at GLC, and that changed everything for me. I was very active in mooting, and I think that's what drew me to come to college a little more often. And I have to thank GLC for one thing, is that all of the access to internships happened through GLC. So my first into like the first in that I got in terms of my internship experiences was through the annual Kanga moot that happens at GLC in the second year. And me and my classmate at the time, Ayush Tandon, we won the Kanga, and that's how I got the internship at ELP. And even in the following years, I got my articleship, which I didn't end up doing at Kanga, as well as my internship at DSK Legal. It all happened through GLC placement or mooting opportunities. So I would say it was an interesting journey. I think I constantly felt like I lacked the academic rigor that I was looking for, but there were so many other opportunities that were made available to me because of the unique setup we have in the law school. Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't know if you would like to say something about it, if you have any follow-up questions on that.
Well, I do remember, I think especially, I think towards the fourth and final year when you were preparing for the boards all the time being in the library. And at times when I used to, study for the exams or work, on any moot court myself, I would come to you for some advice here and there about the formatting, about the memorial. So I do remember that. And you've had such an interesting journey, at GLC. I want to ask you, if you could look back, to that first year Akshata, what would you tell her?
Yeah, I would tell a lot of things. Uh, but I think if I were to pick one, I would say sulk less and make the most of the opportunities you have in front of you. I think I went into law school with a certain expectation of how my experience was going to be, and did not let myself enjoy the moments that I had there. Um, but I mean that changed after, but I mean that's something I would tell myself, and also to the students who are planning to pursue law now. I would like to emphasize that everyone, even if you're in the same law school, will have a different journey. You will have different experiences, and allow yourself to have those experiences, because I think sorry if I'm like expanding a little too much on it, but just to give you a clear anecdote, I think I spent a lot of time being angry about how national law school students have the best of opportunities and I don't get those. I think I sulked a lot about it. But when I, through the internships, met a lot of students who were at the end schools, who told me that, well, you have the opportunity and access to all the best law firms, to the high court, to the best of the lawyers in town, and you really can pursue an internship during the course of your semester, which a lot of us cannot. And there's a lot of competition that happens for the summer internships and the internships during the vacation periods that we had access to. So I'm I acknowledge that opportunity now, and that completely changed my professional journey. So, yeah, I would say, Akshata, don't sulk so much. Be grateful for the opportunities you have.
Well, that's insightful. And to a lot of our viewers, it will come as a surprise that you were a corporate lawyer at. I mean, you did mention that you got an internship through the Kanga Moot at the Economic Laws Practice, but you also worked as an associate at ELP in the corporate law team. How was your experience like over there? And what were the factors that you had weighed in before you decided to pursue your master's, because you were already having a really good, career in the field of corporate law?
Yeah, that's thank you for asking that, because I think I can't emphasize enough of how much that experience changed my view towards work. I think I got my first professional mentors really at economic laws practice. So I did intern in my third year at ELP, and then in the final year, when I was actively searching for job opportunities, I reached out to one of the seniors there, who I was working for in my internship, to say that, look, I'm applying for internships. Is there a vacancy? Let me know. And that's when I got a call for an assessment internship. So I interned there in my final year, in the second semester. And that's when they offered me, after the internship and an interview, I was offered a PPO. And that's how I started working there as an associate in the corporate laws team. I think corporate law happened by accident. If if I mean, I really don't have any better explanation. But I think all through my third year, fourth year, and fifth year, all the internships that I did were mostly in corporate and commercial laws, and I realized that this is fascinating, and I really enjoy it. I think another factor that I don't normally speak about is the financial independence. Growing up, I always lived with my parents, and having studied in Bombay, I was also staying in Thane with my parents. I was always financially independent. Always financially dependent on them, and I think that was a part, or the evolution, where I really wanted to ensure that I am doing well. And I realized that corporate law was that combination of something that really interests me and at the same time pays well. Which is why I thought that, you know what, this is great, makes me happy. And to be very honest, my 2 years at ELP felt like going to law school and getting paid for it, because all of my practical training came from there. ABCs of legal drafting, of various things. I mean, I know for a fact that a lot of associates in the first year were generally just given a lot of due diligence work, but thanks to the mentors that I had, I was getting very different kind of work. Along with due diligence, I was working on drafting the agreements, I was participating in the negotiations, the whole how to interact with clients. All of this important training was really happening there without actually being in a classroom. So that felt great, that felt exciting. And secondly, what I would say I'm most grateful for was they were equally invested in my professional growth. And when there came a point that I said that I think I'm ready to pursue a master's now, because I wasn't really sure where I was going after law school. I wasn't very clear on what will masters add, how will it add value to my journey. I wasn't clear on that when I graduated, but I think I understood that after I worked for 2 years, and at that point they were extremely supportive of that choice, and they did everything in their capacity to support me with it. So I will be eternally grateful for my experience at ELP.
That's amazing. So, what were the factors that you had considered before? Because, see, your master's, that is the MILE program, Masters in International Law and Economics, is not something that law students, generally opt for. It's a very unique program in itself. So, did you think about it, or did you shortlist it specifically that this was your area of interest? And at that time, did you consider that in future you will be working with the International Trade Center, or it happened afterwards?
So as I mentioned earlier, I wasn't clear exactly on the merits or like the advantages of doing a master's program after law school, because at that time my focus was practicing in India. And I think people value your experience a lot more than an additional educational qualification, in terms of, especially if you work with a law firm. So which law firm you work with and what kind of experience you've had really paves the way for better experiences in future. So doing masters was not an essential at that point for me. However, I did always feel like I would like to work in a more international environment. And international environment can be, it's competitive to get through. And how do you get your foot in the door? And I thought that masters would be a good opportunity to do that, because then you go to a country and you on a student visa, and you can meet people, you can network to really find job opportunities. So it really mattered a lot as to the location of the university mattered in terms of my future job opportunities and vice versa. So it was linked, basically, that decision. So first of all, how did I move towards masters in international law and economics? So there were multiple factors. First of all, I wanted to pursue a masters which will open up more job opportunities and enhance the employability in international markets. Because when you are focused, when you have an Indian law qualification, and then my specialization by experience was Indian corporate laws, what could I bring to the international market that made me employable? And so I wanted to harness, like, or rather pursue education in a field that would allow me these opportunities. So trade seemed like a good mixture between like the regulation and law aspect of it, as well as my interest in commercial laws. That's what I thought initially, and it clicked. So I thought, let me dig a little more into this and see if it actually makes sense. So I spoke to a lot of people who were also working at ELP at the time, because ELP has a very good thriving trade law practice. I reached out to some of the alumni from Graduate Institute as well as World Trade Institute to understand whether it makes sense, and it did to me at the time. So so I decided to specifically look for master's programs in which were linked to international economic laws, so that being trade or investment law. And it made sense to study in Switzerland, because the WTO is situated in, the headquarters is situated in Geneva. So in terms of having the best of job opportunities, I thought I would like to be as close as possible to the WTO. So I applied to multiple universities. I think I at the time was very keen on applying or getting into Graduate Institute, but that did not work out. I did get acceptance from WTI, and it was a no-brainer, because WTI has a long legacy of trade professionals who have graduated from the institute and who've made it big either in their own country or even in the Geneva circuit in terms of trade. So that's how I decided to pursue my master's at the World Trade Institute. Now, the World Trade Institute was offering two courses at the time. One was a traditional LLM course, and the other one was the MILE, that is the Masters in International Law and Economics. And what I thought was, do I want to limit myself to being employed in a law firm setup, or do I specifically want to pursue a legal career, or am I open to working in more development sector or policy sector? And I wanted to keep my opportunities as broad as possible, because even though I knew the direction where I was heading at, I didn't exactly know what I want to do. So that's how I decided to choose between the two. I went with the Masters in International Law and Economics, and let me tell you, it was one of the most grilling experiences, because the first semester was one mandatory component of international economics, and guess who was back? Mathematics. So I struggled and how, but I was in best hands. There were professors were great. My peer group was extremely supportive, and it was a rigorous academic experience that I was lacking, I would say, that I finally got to experience. So I 100% recommend it if you are inclined towards like a career in international trade regulation or policy, or if you want to join the international organization sector in terms of trade law.
Right. So it's interesting that you started as an intern at the International Trade Center, And then you joined as a consultant and now the associate program officer. Could you share a little bit about your internship experience specifically?
Yes, for sure. I think to begin with, I had started applying for internships in my second semester because I knew that the time was ticking. Also, mind you, that I had joined the master's program after 2 years of working. So, going from being financially independent to budgeting your monthly allowance as a student was a difficult transition. So I wanted to go back to the job market as soon as possible, right after finishing my master's. And while I was applying to international law firms here as well as international organizations. That's when I came across ITC during my research of which organization potentially would I like to work for, because International Trade Center, it's a joint agency of WTO and United Nations, and the work is focused on mostly MSMEs and the developing countries and facilitating trade and also capacity building in these countries. So I thought that was an interesting opportunity. And when I decided to apply, I saw that there was a position open for uh, the Trade for Sustainable Development Forum as an intern to assist in organizing the event. So it was a difficult choice because I realized that this is not going to be any technical work. It's essentially assisting in organizing an event. How difficult could that be? And, will that really add to my career progression? Like, does it make any sense? But I look back on my journey and I realized that in most cases, all that I needed was a foot in the door. And then it gives you plenty of opportunities. So that's how I ended up applying for the position, and I got the internship at ITC in the Trade for Sustainable Development Program. And mind you, the internship was unpaid. And most of the UN internships, people would be surprised, are unpaid. And we can have a different conversations about my frustration with it. But so I just want to highlight that I can sit here and say that, follow your heart and follow your passion, and everyone has a journey, but there are some really practical concerns that everyone has, and they can be different for different people. So I have to say that I was extremely privileged in the sense that my parents had actually decided to financially support me while I was finishing my master's. And I had a very honest conversation with my parents at the time, and I said that, look, I know that I'm getting done with my program, but there's this internship opportunity for like 4 months and it's going to be unpaid. Is it doable? Could you fund me still for 4 months? And at that time, look, it's in middle class Indian parents, you have to really make a pitch. It's not like go for it. They really asked me important questions, and they asked me, will that translate into something? What are the chances of it translating into something, etc. So I was very honest to them about it. I said, there's no guarantee that this will turn into a job opportunity in future, like a permanent position or anything. I don't know that. I don't even know if I like working there. But having said that, I will give myself the 4 months to come to Geneva, work, also network with people, the Geneva circuit here. And if things don't work out for me, I'm happy to come back and start applying for jobs. I have enough. I have worked in Bombay. I know people that I can just cold email, send my CV to, and be like, please consider, my application. I was ready to hustle after those 4 months. But having said that, those 4 months were not easy in the sense that budget was a concern. So I was commuting from Bern to Geneva every day because the accommodation and rent in Geneva is extremely high. But what it really allowed me was to meet people who it was a different it was the most enriching experience I've had, because I think I met people at the organization who are really driven, who love their jobs, and who feel like they want to contribute to making a change. And that really inspired me. And I got to know a little more about what the Trade for Sustainable Development program has to offer and the technical work that we do. And I was interested in the technical work we do. So during the course of my internship, along with organizing the event, which GLC had prepared me for, the umpteen number of events that we organize in college, I think it helped, which I didn't think I would ever apply. And yeah, so I got to know a little bit more about the work we do, and at the same time there was a consultant position open in the team, so I decided to apply for it. And the application went through, I had my interview, and that's where I was offered the consultancy.
That's awesome. And that, that message about you being at it and considering all those factors and acknowledging your journey, especially, I mean, it's so surprising that an organization like the United Nations is not paying the interns, which, I mean, it should be more accessible for students all across the world. And I'm extremely happy that you shared this journey so honestly about the internship and how it transitioned into your tenure at the International Trade Center. Could you tell us a little bit more about your work specifically on the T4SD program and how you're helping various sectors across the world and this global value supply chains to improve their sustainability?
Sure. Shivam, before I answer this question, let me go back to the internship topic.
Yes.
And if there are any of your listeners who are interested in understanding more about the internships in Geneva, please feel free to contact me. It's not the case that all the organizations don't pay the interns. There are some organizations do have paid internships. For instance, WTO has paid internships, and it's, I think, enough to sustain as a student. Having said that, there are multiple scholarship opportunities as well. So even though the organization doesn't pay, even WTI, for instance, was offering three scholarships, if I'm not wrong, for to support students who were looking for internships. Although the catch there was you need to have an internship fixed before you apply for the scholarship, which I didn't make through in time, because of which I couldn't apply for those scholarships. So I would say that what I have shared, I don't want it to be a discouragement for anyone who wants to pursue a career or apply for an internship in any of the international organizations. There are ways, and that can be explored. And I'm happy to share whatever information I have, and guidance would be a big word, but I'm happy to contribute as much as I can to getting you where you want to go. Okay. Then after that, yes, my work. That's
Yes.
exciting. I
Yes.
would like to share a little bit about my work for sure. It might be interesting also to know that what I do is not linked at all to what I used to do as an associate at ELP. And it's not, my work is not extremely legal. There are some policy linkages to it, but I don't do legal drafting, for instance, or I'm not involved in any of the trade disputes, etc. So what T4SD does is there are multiple projects that my program handles. What I specifically started working on was this database of sustainability standards called the Standards Map tool, which is available for everyone for free. So the idea is that under the mandate of having a global public good, Standards Map was developed to disseminate information on multiple standard certifications and the sustainability certification labeling schemes, code of conducts, etc., that were available in the market. To give like a brief history, I think through the 90s and the early 2000s, there was this rising awareness about sustainability in specifically Europe and a few other countries. So what consumers were saying that we want to know the impact the product we consume has on the environment and the people who help in the processes. And that led to the rise of the civil societies, NGOs, who came up with like this was in the non-regulatory space, different labeling schemes. For example, you might have heard of fair trade or global gap or ecotex when it comes to textiles, etc. So, and they exist in different countries. Some of them are more globally known. So what happened though was, it's always difficult for smaller businesses or smallhold farmers, say in a developing country, to access the bigger markets, because uh, they lack that competitiveness when it comes to being certified, for instance. So how do we best assist these businesses to become more competitive in terms of their export potential? One of the things was providing them with the information that they need to make the right choice for the certifications, because there are currently there's multiplicity, since it's existing in a non-regulatory space. So to give you an example, like right now on the standards map, we list about 320 standards in different sectors, in different countries, that are available. So it can be really overwhelming for for a small business holder to understand, oh, if I'm a coffee producer in Ivory Coast and I want to export my coffee to say Belgium, who do I contact? Which standard would be the most relevant for me? So this is where we come in, and what we try to do is we provide transparency in a neutral way, by comparing different standards on the same metric. And there are about 1600 criteria that we map the information across, so that the information is available to public, and be like, oh, let's see what this standard is about, what is relevant to me, what isn't relevant to me. So that is the core of the work that I do. And what helps me in doing my job well is the training that I had in due diligence. No, because you have to be detail oriented, you have to be critical, you need to understand the context very well. Say when you're advising, for instance, or when you're conducting like training sessions, you need to understand the geographical context. We can sit on a high horse and be like, oh, what are you doing about soil erosion? But a farmer who understands the reality of the situation goes like, well, what do you mean? Explain to me in the most practical ways. And for that, you need to step back, right? And really, so this is sort of the nature of work that I do. And also I still assist on organizing the T4SD forum, which is an annual forum. And that's something we do in terms of thought leadership in sustainability, by bringing together multiple stakeholders, including the policymakers, business leaders, as well as small businesses, to come together and discuss specific topics on sustainability that are of concern to all of us. And from being an intern on assisting it to now, I have started co-leading it. So that's been my journey as well, I think, in a small way. So I think this is the crux of the work that I do. Sorry if I went on talking for too long.
Not at all. That was amazing. And I mean, especially how you started, with as a corporate lawyer, drafting corporate law agreements, and now towards ensuring transparent standards in a neutral way, as you just said. And then how you linked it, that, your previous learnings didn't go waste. In fact, you built on that, whether it was your learnings as a corporate lawyer or even a small thing like organizing an event at college, which is, now it came back to you and helps you in organizing the annual forum. So what next, for Akshata? And do you ever think about it? Would you like to share anything with the students?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think about it all the time, Shivam. I'm an overthinker when it comes to where am I going next. But I think the way I have functioned is having a rough idea of where I'm going, but I plan every 5 years. I don't make very long-term plans, because I want to leave that room for different things that I learn along the way to change my mind about how where I want to take my life. Because if I were very rigid about what I wanted to do, I wouldn't be working at ITC in Geneva for sure. So I think I'm that at that stage where I'm still trying to figure out. Don't be surprised if I'm doing something completely different 5 years down the line. But I see in terms of the work that I do, I see a lot of linkage to the policy space, because as I said that most of the initiatives that we are talking about were in the non-regulatory space. But as sustainability is becoming it was like a niche topic, and now sustainability is at the heart of all of the discussions. We need to come back to the question of what impact do we have on the planet, and how inclusive are we in terms of our growth. These are the big questions that are at the center of everything. And so one can't deny how important it is, a conversation to have. And a lot of policy initiatives are moving towards that as well. For example, the EU recently has come up with a proposal on the corporate sustainability due diligence. So the idea is to make big corporations more accountable for their impact along the supply chain, no matter where they are sourcing their products from. So as there is more and more interest of the legislators and policymakers in this area, I think my experience, knowledge, the little that I have will become more relevant. So I want to build on that. I want to create that space for myself in this larger movement, and be like, hey, I can help here. So that's what I'm also doing internally within the T4SD program. And there's so much to do. There's in private sector, there's a movement towards the ESG and compliance. There's a lot of cynicism as well in terms of the ESG reporting. Do we really know what we are doing? And I think all of these topics really interest me, and I think that's what I am focused on right now. Another thing that is on my radar is also doing a lot more field work and getting opportunities to do, getting more in touch with the ground reality, because it's great to have a HQ job and working on a database, but if I don't really understand the ground realities, I won't be able to do my job honestly and in a rounded way. So I think these are the things that I would like to work on myself, and try and get as much experience as possible. So that's where my mind is at right now. And yeah, we'll see what's next. I am as excited as I hope the listeners are in terms of where I go next.
Well, that's great. And I'm sure that whatever you do, you will continue to inspire everybody and contribute towards a better world. One thing, which law students, and I think law students these days are extremely focused right from their first year. In case anybody wants to build a career in international law or work with an international organization like the United Nations or the World Trade Organization, what would you advise them? What are the areas that they could work on right from the first year?
I think I have a different approach to this. I know there's a lot of competition, right? So it is natural to feel that need to be clear of what you want right from the first year. But and I know that there are some students who are that focused and who have achieved like incredible things because they've been focused on their journey. But at the same time, I would say that don't force. My advice would be, don't force yourself to have curated experiences because you think you will pursue a certain career, because you might miss out on so many different experiences and opportunities that will completely change your idea of what career you want to pursue. So be open to having different, like, it's good to know. I think it's always good to be open to different, like, for example, this is what you're trying to achieve through your podcast, right? You're trying to bring together like different journeys on one platform that people have access to, so that they feel like, oh, there's different paths to take. So it's always nice to know that there are multiple options, there are multiple paths that one can take. but be authentic to your journey. Like, see what matters to you, understand your core values. Just to give you an example, if money is something that you chase actively, if that is very important to you, then working in the UN may not be the best option for you, career choice for you. But if your interest is still in international law, then maybe a career in international arbitration might be lucrative for you. But if you have an existential crisis about, like, the humanitarian situation, the climate situation, and you feel like you want to do something, then you can join my troop. So I'm just saying that understand your core values, what is important to you, and opportunities will follow. Surround yourself by different people. That's I think I'm digressing heavily and I've gone into this like mentor mode or something. But please, Shivam, do tell me if I'm digressing from the question.
But I don't know. I mean, I'm just listening, and there is.
Okay.
It's just perfect. Please continue.
I think on point to your question, like if you want to pursue a career in international law or in international organizations, I think a strong foundation of understanding the international law really helps. So perhaps in the little ways you can participate in international law moots. I think that's a more fun way to learn the largest scheme of international law, public, private, as well as I think a lot of people also participated in model UNs. I never participated myself, so I don't know if it adds value. But get in touch with people who have done that in the past and see if that really helps, if that has given them more perspective, or if that has helped them get in touch with the relevant peers, for instance, who are working towards the same goals. And then finally, I think in terms of choosing a master's program, uh, I would say that be very practical about what your financial situation is. Don't be in denial about it. Whether you can self-fund it, whether you need to take a loan for it, whether you will be planning to apply for scholarships. And if you want to apply for scholarships, then as Shivam said, you need to be on a set path. You need to have a certain academic record. You need to be an all-rounded student. You need to say have more internship experiences. So I think being aware of your financial situation, which a lot of us are not early in our law school, but my parents always insisted on being very open about these conversations about what is the return on investment on the masters that you're planning to do, how much money will be needed, is it within our means, do we need a loan, if we need a loan, then how sure are you of getting your job immediately so that you can repay it? So these are difficult questions, but I think it's important to have clarity on them right from the get-go. And if and having that clarity will help you sort of to have your journey right from the first year to the fifth year. I will re-emphasize, I had the privilege of being clueless and taking my time to figure it out. I also would like to add that I was a good student, but I was never amongst the first top 3 ranks or anything all through my law school. And that was a difficult thing to deal with, because prior to that I was used to doing well, better rather, academically. And so when I was in the fifth year, along from also while I didn't know exactly what the masters will bring to my journey and my professional progress, I also wasn't entirely confident about my application at the time, because I didn't have very high academic records. So I needed to back it up. I needed to prove how I'm a good candidate. And that's where I realized that my work experience will really add, because this might sound snooty or something, but I think I was good at my job. I was by good at my job, I don't mean that I was doing everything right. I think I was extremely curious and I was driven, and I was in that learning mindset when I was working, which also helped me in making strong connections with the people that I was working with. So I think at the 2 years mark from in my associate journey, I became more confident of who I was, and that I could apply to universities and be like, I would be a good fit for so reason. So I think that's important. So the key is self-awareness.
Thanks a lot,
Yeah.
Akshita. No, it was really insightful, I mean, especially for students, as I said, to explore all the different opportunities that are available in law school, especially if they're not sure, as you said, they shouldn't pressurize themselves, But then they should also be aware, as you pointed out, that if they're applying for a certain scholarship, I mean, the committee will look into how much they have really, shown that kind of interest in that specific area. So the right amount of balance is also required. Now, I mean, if there is anything else that you would like to say to our viewers watching the show, mostly law aspirants and law students, any parting words of wisdom for them?
I have no parting words of wisdom, but I have a question for comment and a question for you, Shivam. Firstly, thank you so much for using your time so productively during the pandemic. While all of us were losing our minds, you decided that you will create this platform so you can educate students and create a space where they can get some guidance from people who have followed different paths or whatever. And so firstly, thank you so much for doing that, because I know for a fact when I was in law school this would have helped me a lot. And secondly, I would like to ask you, what is that one thing? I know there's a lot of criticism about GLC, and I have done it myself in the past. But what is that one thing that you are grateful for the experience at GLC for? If just I would say one thing, yeah.
Well, it's the first time anybody has asked me a question on the podcast. So thanks for putting me on the spot. But I think one, and I consider it as a privilege being a law student at GLC, is that I have contacts and I've been able to build networks through the college. If I'm able to contact you today, or if I'm able to even do this podcast and reach out to most of the people, it has been through the college itself. There have been so many opportunities that the college gives us, to just explore the different areas of law and develop leadership skills and do community service and do so much good, at times. And I think I will always be grateful to GLC for that. So, and you have been my senior, so you know much more about it. And I'm extremely grateful to you, Akshata, for taking out time. And I know you're going, for your holiday also. So I am extremely thankful to you that you spared your valuable time to do this episode. And yes, if you do share any resources later, I will put that as a link in the description of the video as well, whether it's about the internships or scholarships at the World Trade Organization or any other organizations. In case you have any resources, I will put them. So thanks again for being on the show.
No, it's been lovely talking to you, Shivam, and thank you once again. And I would say all the best to all of your listeners. And if there's in any way I can help, or if there's anything you would like to know more, please feel free to contact me either on LinkedIn, or you can take my email address from Shivam. Happy to be there.
Thanks a lot, Akshita. Thank you.